We're going to jump right into it. So welcome everybody to How to Hire for Sales. BMH Solutions hosting. My name is Daniel Tomlinson. I'm the president of BMH Solutions. I have the one and only Michael Weaver here with me. Weaver Sales Academy. Michael, I'm going to do a little intro of you, and then I want you to fill in any gaps. So you started your career right after college in the sales world, started your own agency in 2014, quickly became a top 50 agency out of 19,000 agents for the carrier that you were working for at the time. You and your wife, Courtney, are partners in business and in life. You've got Weaver Sales Academy that you launched 2018. Is that right? 2018.
Right.
So, and you're the co-founder and CEO, one of the top sales training, tracking, and coaching organizations for insurance professionals. You're coaching and training how many thousands of insurance professionals right now, Michael?
Yeah, so currently it's over 5,000. Over the last 5 years, we've coached over 10,000.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing. So you guys, you and your wife Courtney have built multiple multi-million-dollar businesses and love helping business owners do the same. What else do we need to know about you, Michael, before we launch into some more of the details about this hour we have together?
And thank you so much for that intro. So yeah, just like we were kind of talking about, so we actually back in 2022, we actually exited all of our businesses. So we had 4 other sales organizations plus the insurance agency. We exited all 4 of them to concentrate only on Weaver Sales Academy coaching and training, just because we felt like our clients deserved our full-time attention, and our whole goal is to elevate an industry. So we felt like we followed our passion, and it's been awesome. And we kind of already talked, but travel enthusiast. I'm an author, so wrote a book for insurance professionals during COVID, actually, so called Game Changer, taking your insurance agency to the next level. And then we have a podcast too called The Insurance Buzz. So if any of I know all of our guests are probably insurance professionals, so those are 2 really great resources that we the Insurance Buzz, we're at like over 250 episodes. We're the fastest growing insurance podcast in the country, so it's been a lot of fun. Awesome. The last 2 years.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that you had written a book either. So that's fantastic. We're gonna have to put there it is, Game Changer.
Yeah,
that's great. That's great. COVID was a great time to write a book.
Man, it was that period in time where I let the team off for like 2 weeks, and I had already had the book outlined. It was something that was on my mind. I just hadn't sit down and took the time to do it. So I'm like, screw it. We got 2 weeks off. I'm just going to write the book that I've been meaning to write.
Yeah.
And back then I only did the softback version. So in 2023, I actually recorded an Audible version. And so it's one of the few insurance related books on Audible, and it's only like $5 on Audible. So
great.
Yeah, it's awesome though, man. Anything to give resources to the insurance community. That's what we're all about.
That's awesome. So, and that brings me to the objective of this time that we're here together. So we're looking to talk about hiring for sales in particular. And we want this to be very actionable for all of the attendees. So in the follow-up email that you're going to get after this, you're going to be getting links to the different resources that we talked about. You're going to get links to kind of where you can check out what Michael and his wife Courtney are doing and how to follow them. But you're going to kind of be given some of the tools in your toolkit to help you elevate your hiring processes. Let me just do a couple of housekeeping things before we jump into the meat of our discussion. The biggest one is that there is a Q&A built into this platform. So go ahead and ask any questions. We're gonna take the last 10, 15 minutes of our time together to review questions. So any questions that you have, I'll kind of curate them. Some of them might be answered in the process of this discussion, but put your questions in there. And then also we've got a poll. I'm gonna launch this poll. Where do you find talent? Where do you go to look for talent? And then we're going to be kind of talking through some of the places that we recommend, BMH Solutions and Michael, as we kind of talk through this. But where do you find talent? Go ahead and answer that question, and we'll kind of publish the results here in a little bit. So we're gonna jump in here, Michael, to some of the meat of the question. The biggest one is we're going to talk specifically about hiring for sales. So this is your background. This is what you've done as a business owner. Obviously being a sales professional yourself, but also as a business owner, hiring for sales. The first thing I guess I kind of want to ask you about is, who are you looking for? What is the kind of characteristics or type of person that you can help that you are looking for to help you kind of filter through filter through any candidates that you're getting? This person's good for customer care. This person's good for sales. What are some of your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And before I get started on this, for all of those that are attending right now, just want to give a shout out to you. Thank you so much for attending our webinar today. I know me and Daniel are super excited about today. And if you haven't already, make sure you put in the chat box a little bit about yourself. So like where you're from and how long you've been in the industry would be awesome. If you could put that in the chat box, just say hello. I like engagement. All right. I don't want this to just be where we're talking at you the whole time. I want you guys to engage. Make sure you ask any questions you have. I know myself, over the last decade of being an entrepreneur and business owner, I've hired over 100 salespeople. So I've made a shit ton of mistakes along the way. And that's the whole reason that I want to talk about this today, is so that you don't make those same mistakes. So to answer your question, Daniel, who I'm looking for, I believe the best salespeople have really 3 to 4 characteristics that I'm always looking for. So number one, ambition. Like I want somebody that is driven. You could even put self-starter in that ambition category, but someone that has some goals, someone that has some big dreams, somebody that has also, when it comes to ambition, I like to look at individuals that have a proven record of ambition. Like, have they been athletes? What did they do in their school years, their college years to show that they're ambitious? And then in the interview process, I'm going to be asking them like, hey, what are some of your big goals in life? What are some of your big dreams in life? Like, what do you want to accomplish? So ambition, number 1. 2, optimistic. All right,
Okay.
optimistic. Okay. Because think about this. In sales, in my opinion, sales is the best career in the world, but it is also the most difficult career in the world. Look, insurance sales is hard. Look, insurance sales is just hard. You have 1,000 different competitors out there. And so individuals that struggle with that positivity, that optimistic outlook, when you get told no all the time, that's going to weigh on you. All right. So I'm automatically looking for optimistic salespeople. Actually, a book that I read that I would recommend all of you read is The Happiness Advantage by Sean Anker. Okay. So Sean Anker. And the reason I recommend reading that, so he actually does a lot of statistics on individual, like positivity versus like negativity in the individuals. And when it comes to salespeople, those people that are just automatically more optimistic and more positive individuals when compared to those that lean to the negative side, within the first 12 months of like recording data, the positive salespeople outperform the negative salespeople by 37%. Okay. When you go into 2 years, all right, that 40, like that 24-month period, they outperform them by 56%.
Man.
Just by being more positive and more optimistic. So that's going to be a characteristic I look for in who I'm hiring on my sales team. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say the third characteristic I personally am looking for is great communication skills. Individuals that can just talk to people naturally. All right. So, and what I mean by that is active listening and curiosity. All right. I want individuals that are naturally curious, and in communication. Look, there's no doubt about it. It is harder to find individuals, specifically those younger millennials and Gen Zers, that have great communication skills, just because, in my opinion, they've been on their phone or an iPad almost their entire life. Sure. And so like at Weaver Sales Academy, that's what we really hone in on, is teaching really great communication skills. I mean, our tagline is we take the gap out of like from corporate training to what it actually takes to be successful in insurance sales. That's the gap we fill at Weaver Sales Academy. And the gap we truly feel is that conversation piece. Like, because transactional selling is trash, man. Like if you treat a customer like a transaction, they're going to leave you like a transaction. And so I really believe that the competitive edge or competitive advantage you have as an insurance agency owner and insurance sales professional moving forward in the world that we're moving in technology is the ability to have real conversations with people that convert.
And that makes a lot of sense in terms of the retention side of things too. So if your relational engagement from the get-go, if your communication is relational from the get-go, your retention is going to be much higher in the long run, because you haven't just treated that person like a number. You've treated her like a human being with, dignity and needs, and kind of gotten to know them. So that makes a lot of sense.
When you think about the conversation, I mean, the best salespeople in the world are those individuals that can ask questions, because ultimately in insurance, the biggest hurdle you have to overcome with team members is that price mindset. Like the
Yeah.
insurance always comes back to price, but money is a myth. Price is a myth. Like at the end of the day, 90% of consumers surveyed, all right, 90, but this isn't, and everything I say is, and it's the same thing we do at Weaver Sales Academy. Like everything we do is scientifically approached, data approach. 90% of consumers say they will pay more for something if they find value in it. All
Sure.
right. So money's never really the true objection in sales. It's helping the team member overcome that money mindset. And part of that is going to go back to having the ability to have conversations that matter, having discovery type of conversations with customers that drive them away from price and what insurance actually does for them.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question as kind of a follow up to that. It's interesting you put in there kind of curiosity, because that's the one that comes to my mind is, whether you have experience in sales or no experience, if you're not a curious person, if you're not somebody who's like looking to learn and grow, it seems like, this is not going to be for you, because, even from the time, even in the last, couple years, the landscape has changed so significantly in terms of how people engage, what they're buying in the insurance world, all of that. Yeah, I don't know if you want to speak to that, but that kind of like growth mindset sounds like something that you're really looking for.
Well, I'm in the self-development space. So,
Yeah.
yeah, any individual that I've ever hired on my team, because the number one investment I've always made in my businesses are in my people and then their development. Right. Those two typically outweigh like any marketing dollars I ever spend, because my thought process is if I can have great people that are developed really well, they're going to be able to convert on the marketing dollars, be referable, and it's happened that way in every business I've ever ran. And so, yes, like one question I always ask in every interview is going to be like, when's the last time you read a book? Like, what are you doing to grow and develop yourself? What are your 3 favorite business or mindset books? Like, I'm always going to ask that. Maybe what's the last podcast you listened, like whatever you want to ask. But yes, growth and development is, because what I've found in my experience is if somebody's already growing and developing, maybe they have a morning success ritual, that's an individual that's going to be disciplined. That's an individual that's going to be looking to grow and develop. Those individuals that aren't into growth and development and are just kind of complacent with their life, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. But in the industry that we're in, and if you're looking for those really good A players that want to be surrounded by other A players, they're going to be constant. Like, it's really hard to take someone that currently doesn't believe in growth and development and have them believe in growth and development, if that makes sense.
Sure. No, it totally makes sense. And, one of the things that a lot of business owners are really good at is building out an ICP for their customers. So ideal customer profile. Here's, my ideal customer. Here's how I'm going to speak to them. Here's how I'm going to engage them. I understand their pain points. I always recommend do that same thing for candidates. What is the ICP for your applicants? So that automatically creates this filter for you of, this person fits, this person doesn't fit. Not that there's necessarily anything wrong with them, but they're just not a good fit for your culture. They're not a good fit for, what you're trying to accomplish. So that ideal candidate profile, I actually will link, you'll be getting a follow-up in the follow-up email. You'll be getting a link to one that I created just as a template. Use it as you see fit. Kind of the 3 buckets that I'm always looking for when I'm interviewing somebody is character. I'm looking for culture, fit with my culture. And then I'm looking for competence. I can always train for competence, but if I don't filter for character and for their fit with the culture right off the bat, this is very much what you were kind of saying there, Michael. I'm going to fire them no matter how competent they are. If they're not a man or a woman of character, they're going to get fired because, they're not dealing ethically or whatever the case may be. How do you attract them? Let's talk about that, because one of the things that I've noticed about you as I've interacted with you online is that you've done a really good job of building your personal brand. And I got to think that when anybody is looking to apply for Weaver Sales Academy for any of your businesses that you've done or had in the past, that personal brand, your online presence is kind of their first impression of you. So there's that aspect of it. Maybe you want to speak to that, but just how do you attract top talent to your team? What are some of the key markers there?
That's a really great question. And before I answer this question, I want to go back to what you just said, because I think I almost assume that everybody looks for this in a candidate, and I shouldn't assume, but integrity is a big deal,
Yeah.
specifically in the insurance world with doing the right thing for customers. All right. Like, you don't want people that
Mhm.
cut corners no matter how much they produce. So integrity, and then you hit the nail on the head, is if you're in an interview process and you have a difficult time like talking to somebody, or your values just don't align, I don't care how good they are. If you're not going to be able to be around them 8 hours a day every day in an in
Yeah.
office, now we're talking in office, we're not talking remote, we're talking
Sure.
in
Sure.
office culture. That is a really big deal that should not go overlooked. Like, in that process, I would interview them, and then I would have my team interview them to make sure that everybody's going to be able to get along, because I don't want to bring in a cancer to an already established amazing culture, no matter how good I think they're going to be. So I
Yeah.
wanted to reiterate your point there.
Yeah.
To answer your question on attracting, so I can go into the branding first, and then I'm going to go into kind of what I believe people are looking for, again, based off of like research data, what I've found in my experience. And I'm really going to be talking about millennials and Gen Zs here, because that's the age group that most
Sure.
of us are currently hiring.
Yeah.
But when it comes to branding, I think you have to have a brand, and it's the same thing with customers. Customers are going to go to your online space before they look at your office space, and so your online space, no matter if you're looking to attract talent or you're looking to attract customers, it needs to be amazing. It needs to be a great representation of who you are, what you stand for, why you do what you do. So it doesn't matter if it's your website, it doesn't matter if it's your social media feed. Like, it really needs to portray who you are, and just not from a professional standpoint. I'm talking about what your personal brand is as well. Like, what do you like to do for fun? What are your hobbies? Are you a family person? Are you
Yeah.
spiritual? Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? What are you about? Is a really, really big deal, because brand loyalty is an all-time low. So I don't care what company you represent. You can represent State Farm, Allstate, Farmers. I see a New York Life in here. Look, consumers just don't care about big brands anymore, because big brands, unfortunately, have burned a lot of people. And so your brand is you. Like, your brand is you. You should not market the big brand. You want to
Yeah.
market yourself. All right. So
Yeah.
I think that that's really key.
Yeah.
Now let's get actually into, like, okay, what are you going to do to attract them? Number one, fun. All right, fun. Like, people like to have fun, specifically Gen Zs and millennials. Like,
Yeah.
they're looking for flexibility. They're looking for fulfillment. And I'm going to get into some of these more, but fun and winning. If you're
Yeah.
really looking to attract those A players, part of your social media, part of your online is like celebrating, like, hey, this is what we've accomplished. Here's my team accomplishing it. So fun and winners. Winners attract winners. Winners want to work in winning environments, period. So, like, if I hopefully I portray a lot of fun at Weaver Sales Academy. Like, hopefully in insurance, I was always on social media. Like, I was doing lives every day. I held like a live series where I would do like Sunday smarts. Like, I branded myself as the go-to money expert in the community, but I also branded myself as, hey, not only do we work hard, but we play hard. Like, when my team would win or we'd be out at a team event, like, I'm taking all kinds of pictures to be able to post, because you're going to want to attract talent like that, because
Yeah.
people want to have fun in today. Like,
Yeah.
life is more than just work. Like,
Yeah.
we know that. Like, that's my firm belief. Like, if you're just hiring somebody for a job, there's no way you're ever going to be able to find an A player.
The other thing with that, Michael, is that you could feel free to disagree with this, but I don't know any kid that grows up saying, I can't wait to work in insurance. Like it's not like this. My kids, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a cowboy, I want to be a police officer, whatever. Like, that's, none of them are like, insurance, that's where I want to work. But what are the things that attract people to it and attract people to your team in particular? Like, why would they be interested in working for you as a agency owner if what they're seeing online is like, just some, pretty bland graphics. I can't really see your team members. I don't know what the heck you care about in terms of what are your core values or anything like that. So I agree. And that's the first impression, right? Like that is where people are going to check you out. They're not stopping by your office and handing in a paper resume. Like that's not, this is, this is the world we live in right now.
No, I mean, more than likely, we've even changed our hiring process to where we make people send in videos of themselves before we'll even hire them. So, because we want to see how they show up in a virtual landscape. Yeah. So, but you're absolutely right. Like you have to have a personal brand, you have to have a presence, and you got to be having fun and winning because look, so here's some things that Gen Zs and millennials are looking for. So how are you going to attract them? Number one, they're looking for purpose over paychecks. Now, this doesn't mean that they don't want paid well. They want paid well. They like security and stability. What I found is they will actually sacrifice a higher ceiling for more stability and security, so paying them a higher base, but purpose over paychecks. Okay, what I mean by that is they want a job that is fulfilling to them and meaningful to them. If they're going to waste 8 hours of their day every single day in a spot, they want to feel good about what they're doing, because if they don't feel good about it, they're leaving you. Yeah. Like, period. Like, we live in a generation of Gen Zs and millennials that they don't care if they have a job lined up. If they're not happy in the workplace, if they're not fulfilled, if they're not doing something that brings meaning to them, they're out. Like, they don't care. They're handing in their resume. They're gone. Yeah. Like, see you later. Resignation, gone. And so how do you do this is you have to preach values from the very beginning. So why do we do what we do as insurance professionals? Look, it may not be a sexy business, but you need to make it sexy because you are the asset of you're the protector of assets, baby. Like, what you do as an insurance professional, in my opinion, is the most important career in the world. You're having conversations with people every single day that nobody else is having, if you're doing it, in my opinion, the right way. Like, where you're actually protecting people. You're not just trying to save them money. Like, that's not your job. Your job is to make sure that on their worst day, they're not devastated financially. All right. And that is the value that you have to preach to new people. Like, this is what we do, and it means the world to people. You have the ability to make sure that if someone passes away, someone's house is burned down, or they total out a car, that their family isn't starting a GoFundMe, that their family isn't out on the streets, that their family's not having to sell their house and move their kids out of the school district. And I know I'm getting fired up right now, and I get a little fiery, but this is the stuff I'm talking about with, like, this is meaning. This is fulfilling. Like, this is what we talk about all the time at Weaver Sales Academy. These are the types of conversations, not only that you're having with your team, these are the types of conversations you're having with your customers. Like, why do you do what you do as an insurance professional?
Yeah. And Michael, it almost seems like, the flip side of that is, if you're getting such high turnover amongst your Gen Zers, because Gen Zers are, being an older millennial, this was us, not that long ago, of like, millennials, they're such flakes, they're doing this, they're doing that. And the same, it's just like the next generation, Gen Z, let's talk about all their issues and how bad they are. And, back in my day kind of thing. But what you're saying there is, is almost like, if you've got such high turnover amongst your Gen Z people, your workers, that you should be looking internally and saying, all right, am I really communicating the value of what we're doing in such a way that they're both grasping and can hold on to it? Because what you're saying is, they'll stick around. Like, if you're able to communicate the value and the meaning behind the work that they're doing, kind of, whatever the while you're in the trenches, you need to have this vision of like, all right, this is what we're headed towards. This is what I'm accomplishing for folks. It's possible. It's the agents, what you're saying is, it's most likely you should be looking and saying, okay, how can I help communicate this meaning and purpose more intentionally?
Well, absolutely. Look, and this has come from, again, experience of hiring over 100+ salespeople, burning people out. Look, when I was very first started the business, I had my mission and I had my vision, but very rarely did we talk about that. Okay. What I was talking about was, hey, you've got production numbers to hit. I don't care what you got to do. You got to do more. You need to work more hours. Like, and I just burned the shit out of people. Like, and it was not good. Like, and at that part in time, my emotional intelligence and business acumen wasn't high enough to understand that I was being a poor leader. All right. Like my leader, like I was like, we have a job to do. I got to pay the bills, get it done. That's not how you lead people. At that point in time, you're a boss. You're not a leader. And what people are looking for, this is another thing when millennials and Gen Zs are surveyed, they're looking for a leader, not a boss, somebody that leads from the front, somebody that cares about them, somebody that's going to tie their personal goals into what they can accomplish within their career. So you have to, and again, it's flexibility too, but you have to be a leader. You can't just be like, do this, do that, do this. Okay. Like you got to lead from the front. Another thing I would tell you is skill development. That's one thing that they're looking for. Like they want to know, like, when you're interviewing, I would be sharing what the first 90 days looks like to help them be successful. Because if you're looking for an A player wants to know when they start with you, you have a plan in place. Like for example, at Weaver Sales Academy, we have a brand new onboarding hire that's a done for you training system for agents that can get a brand new hire up and selling in less than 10 days. And you have 90 days of training built out for them, where on average, new producers by day 90 working with us are producing 48 policies a month. 44 to 45 of those are P&C products. 4 to 5 of those are life insurance products. That's the type of skill development to get somebody winning, hitting their commissions, hitting their goals within the first 90 days, because 90 days is so critical. And then the skill development doesn't stop after 90 days. Like you have to continue to invest in your team. So that's something they're looking for, period.
That's great. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say the other thing that I've found on how to attract is flexibility. So I know that you kind of said this earlier, like Gen Zs and millennials, we kind of talk, I'm an elder millennial myself. All right. So kind of talk shit on the younger millennials and Gen Zs, like, man, these guys don't want to work, yada, yada, yada. At the end of the day, I think we actually have a lot to learn from them. I think that they want that work-life balance. Like that's the word they call it. I think there's a rhythm here. I think there's a work-life rhythm is what my wife and I like to say. But again, it can't be all about work. It just can't. Not in today's times. If you're going to attract really great people, you're going to have some type of flexibility, again, within that work environment.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about kind of the remote versus in-person debate that's kind of, everyone's got an opinion or trying to figure out how to navigate that for their agency. But you and I, when we were kind of talking about this webinar, you talked to me about a counterintuitive process that you go through with anybody that you're hiring, and you call it, correct me if I'm wrong, but hurdles to hiring is the kind of concept that you do. So you're intentionally putting some barriers in place for anybody who's applying to work for you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we definitely call it hurdles before hiring. So, and it kind of goes back to like what I hinted at earlier. So what we do is, we get a lot of candidates from LinkedIn, actually, is where we find a lot of candidates. Yeah. So we'll get anywhere between 300, 400, 500 candidates. So to decipher between those candidates, the very first hurdle we put up is not only do they need to send us their resume, they have to send us that 1-minute video. Like, who are you? Why do you want this position? All right. So that's the very first thing we do. And then what we do is we move all of and that little step right there will automatically delete 70% of candidates because they won't send in the video.
Yep.
So you don't send in the video, you're not getting the next step. Yeah. So the next step before we actually interview them is now we're going to set up a group interview. All right. So how do they stand out amongst 10 other, 15 other, 20 other candidates in a virtual setting? How are they showing up to that appointment? What are they wearing? How do they portray themselves? Right. What are their communication skills? So you're looking for these basics that I hit on in the very beginning. Like, what does their communication look like? Are they energetic? Are they showing up and dressing for success? Okay. So if they show up, nothing wrong with, I guess, with showing up in sweats and a t-shirt, but it's a job interview. Come on, man. Like, let's go. Like, you want this or not? So right there, you're going to see how they stack against other candidates. And then we're going to narrow it down with so let's just say you interviewed 10. On a group interview, we're probably only going to pull 2 to 3 from those 10. So those 2 to 3, then what's going to happen is we're going to set up a 15-minute quick little phone interview. All right, 15 to 30 minutes. What I would recommend instead of phone is virtual. We do everything virtual. I like to see how people portray themselves. Okay. So we're going to set up, and that's more of a get to know them. Like, tell us about your history, what's going on, like, what are you looking for in a job? And then
Mhm.
at that point, and typically I'm not on the interview process yet. So they have to get through what's your sales experience. All right. What's your sales experience? If you're hiring a salesperson and they have sales experience specifically in the insurance industry, hey, send me some of those sales reports. I want to see what you're made of. All right.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking for A players, they're going to be like, here's my sales report, man. I crush 100 policies a month every month. Like, they're going to be like, let's go, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's what we're doing there. And then the individuals that make it through that process. So I actually have my COO. You could have an office manager. You could have a lead sales team member doing this. Then after they get through that step, then typically one or two will come to me. And that's when I'm like, okay, let's go through this. Let's do a mock sales. I typically will do a mock sales conversation in an interview. Like, okay, sell me an auto policy. Like, let's do this.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that sticks out to me in my conversations with customers and agency owners is that you've got a mindset shift. What you just described is a mindset shift from what a lot of agency owners have. They have a more like, please come work for us. Yours is like, it's a privilege to work here. Prove to me that you want it. Prove to me that you're going to go after it. And I'm not going to just take anybody who's breathing. Like, I'm intentionally screening out that a lot of people. Yeah.
Yep. And this is look, I'm a contrarian on a lot of things. Okay. Like, I'm one of the only coaches and trainers in the industry coaching transformational selling versus transactional selling. I'm one of the only individuals because there's a lot of recruiters out there and other even business owners that are and influencers in the insurance space that are like, hire as many people as you can, just let it figure it out. Look,
Yeah.
That is a recipe for a giant headache. Look, I'm not begging anyone to come work for me, because sales, I go back to what I said in the very beginning, sales is hard. Sales is hard, period. Like, sales is difficult. So if they're not willing to go through a 5 or 6 step process to even get a job, do you honestly think they're going to be that successful in sales? The answer is no.
Right.
Period.
Right. Yeah.
And the worst mistake you can have, not to cut you off, Daniel, but the worst mistake, okay, maybe not the worst mistake, but one of the biggest expensive mistakes you can make as a business owner is hiring the wrong person.
Absolutely. It's this kind of like quantity or quality type of, it seems to be like, all right, I just need to get as many people, I get as many resumes across my desk and I'll find, the diamond in the rough, versus setting up a system so that people, only the cream of the crop is getting through, and then you talk about 10 people that get through that process and you're picking 2 or 3 of them, and not that the other 7 are like garbage, but just, I want the best of the best. And, if those 2 or 3 don't work out, okay, maybe of that 10, maybe there's another 1 or 2 you can reach out to. But this kind of just like, 180 resumes in a week, because I boosted my Indeed ads, and like, there's just no way you can metabolize all those people. How exhausting. And it just makes me think, like, the best part of business is people. And the most difficult part of business is people. It's kind of like, yeah.
And when talking about the hurdles over hiring, like, your time is important. All right. Like, the last thing you need to be doing is sitting down with every single resume applicant you get that you think qualifies for the position and having a one-on-one. That is and that's what I used to do. Look,
Sure.
This is a lesson learned. This was a mistake back in the past because I didn't know any different. Again, my whole goal here today is to help you not make the same mistakes I have throughout my career. And that's why I recommend, like, make them send you a 1 to 2 minute video, put them in a group interview. Like, why would you take your time to interview 15 single candidates in a week when you know that only 1 or 2 of those are probably even going to be worthy of an interview? Like, just
and you can tell. And you can tell, like what you were just saying, like, you can tell within 5 seconds whether or not this person is going to be a good fit. Like, you might not know whether or not you want to hire them, but you can tell, you can tell no really quickly. You can say, nope, not for me. Let's jump over to kind of, where do you look? Because you already touched on this a little bit. Let me publish the result of the poll here. So people's responses here. The community networking was actually the top of the list, which is a little surprising to me. We had job boards, employee referral programs, which I always recommend. Like, if you've got employees that you really enjoy working with, likely they're going to be connected to other people that you really enjoy working with. Recruiters, only 27%. My carrier provides them 5%. So, I know a lot of like State Farm and Allstate, like they've got a certain amount of people that they're trying to feed their pipeline, but that's not where they're actually finding talent. They're having to go out to other avenues to do that. So it's a little interesting here. You mentioned LinkedIn. Maybe talk through that and also some of the other places that you found success. If you got some comments to make about that, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, and for all of those of you right now that are listening, I'd love to know your biggest takeaway so far. Like, what's something that you've learned so far that you're like, man, I haven't thought about that? Or better yet, if you're anything like me, you've done it before and it works so well, you quit doing it. All right. So what have you taken away so far that you're like, all right, let's do this? So, I think a lot of people are sleeping on LinkedIn right now. I think LinkedIn is an amazing tool. I think it's an amazing platform for business professionals to be on, especially when you talk about attracting talent. Now, I still think that Facebook is the best avenue for like customer marketing and building relationships with customers. But when it comes to finding talent, I think LinkedIn is by far the best place to be branding yourself as a business owner, a thought leader in the industry, somebody would want to work with. All right. Like, period.
Yeah.
So, and we run ads on there. Like, anytime we're looking for a position, we're running ads. We typically spend about $500 a month. So about 150 a week. And we get we do get a lot of candidates. We've hired our last 3 or 4 from LinkedIn. And the biggest feedback I give you are kind of using those terms that I talked about earlier. So like purpose over paycheck, value alignment, fulfillment in the workplace, why we do what we do, like making sure these are in the job descriptions, a little bit about you. That's what's going to attract people. Okay. So LinkedIn is a good one. Job boards are cool, but job boards are all over the place. Like I think the other place to go are those people that already have jobs. So like some of the favorite places I love to recruit when I owned my agency was Enterprise. You have a lot of young, hungry individuals that have college degrees that are interested in. The only reason people go to Enterprise usually is because they like the idea of upward movement to potentially owning their own branch one day, moving up in the company. So these are people that are ambitious. They have ambition.
Yeah.
It's the first thing I said, like ambition. All right. So Enterprise, bars and restaurants. I love because these are people, when you talk about communication skills, they're talking to people every day. Every day. Specifically bartenders. You can't, at a bar, you're making a drink and you're talking. That's it.
That's it. Yeah, and it's very relational, right? Like, to your point earlier, like that's all relational. Waiters, waitresses, bartenders. Let me ask you this question. This just came to me right now because I was talking to an agent a few months ago, and he's like, "I will never hire a car salesman ever again. They are the laziest." Have you had that same experience? Do you have that same response? What about car salesmen? Is it kind of a hit or miss for you, or what's your perspective?
You know what? I don't have anything wrong with I think there's a lot of bad candidates out there from every industry. So to be like, oh, car salesman, like there's some really great, like I know multiple insurance agents that were prior car salespeople and they were crushing it in car sales. I mean, they walked away from 400, 500 grand a year and now they're really successful insurance agency owners. So I'm not going to stereotype but you are going to get a lot of bad compared to the good. That's any industry. All right.
Sure.
So,
and I forgot to mention, Michael, earlier. Sorry to cut you off because I know you're on a roll here, but that hurdles before hiring document, that's going to be in the follow-up email. So what Michael described earlier about the hurdles he intentionally puts in place before hiring somebody, that is going to be linked in the follow-up email, and you're going to be an opportunity to download and kind of digest that all that he shared there. So anyway, keep going there, Michael.
No, man. So there's 2 other ones that I'm going to share today that I don't think a lot of people are probably talking about, but I think there's a lot of elder millennials right now that have been stay-at-home parents potentially, or like part-time parents, part-time job. And now their kids are getting old enough to where they're looking for work. And so I think that's another really great avenue to be looking for people. And the last thing I'm going to say, and I know that this was probably frowned upon in the past, but Man, I know multiple very successful insurance agents that have this approach, and they approach very successful insurance producers from other agencies,
Yeah.
from other companies. Okay, like I know you're probably not going to step on your own company's agent's toes, but if you can find a producer that's consistently producing what you would want them to produce, like they're an A player, and you can offer them a better opportunity, that's a thing that I if you
Yeah.
can go in and find good talent and offer them a better opportunity to make more money aligned with their personal goals, I'm all for that. So that's
Yeah.
the other one I
Sure.
don't hear a lot of people talking about.
Yeah.
Josiah, if anyone has never heard of Josiah Hartley, so he's a big time farmers agent. He's somebody that he has this strategy and it works really well for him.
Mhm.
And so he's one that you could look up on YouTube, or he's been on my podcast on the Insurance Buzz, and he actually gives like his whole thing. But it's a really good one. There's a question: how do you recruit from enterprise? Really easy. Walk onto Enterprise's lot, act like you're going to rent a car, and see how they talk to you.
Exactly.
That's what I used to do. I would have a
Yeah.
day. I would have one day a week that I would actually drive, and I would do like a half a day. So I would do like noon to 5 p.m., not the whole day. And I would drive around to like enterprise lots, and I would just be like, hey, I'm interested in a car, because most of them are not going to be a great experience. But all of a sudden you'll find one that's like, dang, this guy just blew my socks off. Like, let's talk to him
Yeah.
about him or her about an opportunity.
Yeah, it's a counterintuitive kind of, just finding the industries where there are people that are, consistently interacting with individuals, and you're giving them an opportunity. That's one of the things that so many people get into insurance, is because the upside potential is so high, especially after 3, 4, 5, 6 years in the industry. Like your ability to build wealth for yourself and for your family is so high on there. Let's talk. We've got another about 19 minutes here, so let's talk real quickly about remote versus in person, and then I want to talk about retention right after that, because I think they obviously getting the right person in the seat is great. Keeping them is a whole nother ball of wax, which I'd love to talk to about. So talk to me about your mindset around remote versus in person. And I'm going to actually publish another poll here. Are you open to hiring remote employees? And I want to hear what people's responses are here. So,
So
yeah, go
my
ahead.
take on this is I think that you have to start hiring remote individuals for your team, because
Have to.
as
Have to.
have this is not this is a non-negotiable
Yeah.
in the insurance industry. If you're going to have a physical location, I think that you're always going to have an in-person team, without a doubt. It could be like your CSR team, those individuals that are working the phones, they know how to sell, they're kind of like your in-book sales team. I'm cool with them being like in person, but in my opinion, and when you look at data and research, I just saw a poll the other day on LinkedIn for individuals. Like, do you prefer in-office work, remote work, or hybrid work? Literally 70% voted either hybrid or remote work. 70% of over 10,000 people. We're talking 7,000 people.
Yeah.
So if you're looking, and here's the other thing I found, because at Weaver Sell, and the transition was not easy. Look, it was very difficult. That's the one thing about our businesses. We've ran physical locations with a complete in-person team. We've ran multiple businesses with both in-person, out-person. Weaver Sales Academy, we're completely remote. So the skill set, there is a learning curve to managing remote salespeople, without a doubt. But to find the best talent, when I started hiring remote, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much talent out there, like a lot of talent.
Yeah.
So that's why I think, actually, I don't think, that's why I believe that remote, you have to go ahead. I know it's scary. I know it's a new process. I know it's a new skill development, but you have to hire remote sales. Just get it done. Just hire one remote salesperson and create the processes, learn how to manage them. And we can kind of talk a little bit about managing remote, but I believe that for you to be successful in the future, you're going to have a remote division to your company.
I agree. And the reality is, you shared some stats there which are really eye-opening to me. I was talking to a gentleman, Troy Greenway from over at Greenway Growth, and he gave me a kind of a tidbit here that was super helpful for me in my thinking. I always thought about it as okay, it increases my pool of candidates. You know, if I'm in a rural, you know, I have a customer who's in Kansas. He's in a town of 5,000 people. He's like, if I only hire in person, I've got this many people to choose from. You know, by hiring remote, I've expanded my pool. But Troy was telling me that, you know, living in a metropolitan area like New York City, where you've got the cost of living is so high. By hiring remote, you've in some ways you have increased your ability not only to increase your pool of candidates. You got plenty of people around you that can work for you, but you don't have to pay them New York City wages in order to have them you know be able to make a living and you know provide for their family and all that. If they're living you know outside the city, if they're living in New Jersey, if they're living in you know downstate, wherever, um, they can live
Maybe they're
anywhere
in
in the
the corn. Maybe they're in the corn states in the Midwest, baby.
yeah,
Like, who
exactly right.
knows?
I know it's amazing. Like, yeah, here I am in Indiana, and I'm working for this insurance agent in on Long Island or something. You know, so
Yep.
that was kind of a aha moment for me. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like as a business owner, I'm trying to get the most value out of my employees, and if I've got to pay them $100,000 in order for them to afford to live in New York City, that's different than having to pay them $50,000 because they're living in Indiana, something like that. So anyway,
No,
yeah.
and I think the other thing, I know we're talking mainly about salespeople here, but I don't want to skip this step. Like from an admin standpoint, if you've never ventured into like the VA services through like the Philippines or Thailand or Mexico, like
Mhm.
highly recommend. You can get great people for really small amount of money,
Yeah.
and to do those admin tasks to take them off your list. David, I just want to say congrats on hiring your first remote salesperson. That's
Yeah,
huge. That
yeah,
is a huge step that should be celebrated. So great job, man. That's
yeah,
tremendous.
absolutely. Absolutely. And we've got a couple questions that have come in. If you have any more questions, we're going to get into question and answer time here into the next little bit. So keep questions coming. That would be great. Anything else on the remote kind of in person? You're talking about kind of having to figure out what accountability structures look like, what the
Yep.
training looks like, and that type of thing. Any resources that you would point to of like, hey, this person has got it figured out, go follow them on Instagram or LinkedIn or something like that. Any
Mm.
or is there stuff that that's really helped you as you've kind of been building a culture? That's another big thing that people talk to me about, is like, I can't build a culture with
Yep.
remote workers. How do you respond to that?
You can. You just have to lead them. You have to dedicate time to them, just like a normal employee that was in office. So that's the things, like kind of what it come to my mind is like you have to have a structured management system. So that means weekly or biweekly one-on-ones at a minimum. All right. You need to be having team meetings every single day where they're on Zoom and they're part of the meeting so that they feel like they're part of that team. They're part of the team meeting. They're part of the value system. They're part of the training. And quite
Mhm.
frankly, one thing I've learned with my sales team is I actually have them keep a Zoom window open all day. Now you can use
Okay.
Teams, you can use whatever virtual technology you want, but we just pick Zoom, and the whole team is on Zoom. And so we can hear each other, see each other. They kind of have coffee shop talk, even though they're in a remote environment, so they get to know each other. That's been one of the best things that we've done to help establish a culture in a remote environment. Um, the other things that we do in a remote environment is we have a minimum of 2 team get-togethers every single year where we fly everybody into a central location and we celebrate. We talk about the upcoming 6 months. And then the last thing I would tell you is it goes back to that skill and development. This is why a lot of people work with Weaver Sales Academy, because we have that done for you training system created for insurance professionals, to where you have a structured training program that they can access all the time. They don't got to go out and figure it out. You don't have to do it. That's the biggest thing I would tell you, to have a consistent structured management program and a consistent structured training program. You
Okay.
have to have
Yeah.
that in a remote environment, or else you're going to have a lot of difficulties.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that actually, we've got Terry here who just asked the question. Her biggest fear slash questions for remote are how to train them. Any great advice on training? So you just mentioned there a couple of things. Weaver Sales Academy being a resource for people that are looking to train their remote sales teams. But you talked about a couple of things there in terms of like, yeah, weekly meetings. There's a few other things there that are super helpful for kind of building that culture, and then actually getting together in person, which is like, you build it into the expense of, of building a team culture and building, your team's uh, connection, relational connection.
I mean, absolutely. Like, obviously, I'm going to be biased to Weaver Sales Academy because I believe we're the best training organization in the country. Okay. So we have a built out sales academy for both your remote and your tenured team, in-person team, so that everybody's being trained the same way every single time. That's what's most important. But here's the thing is, let's say you like training, you like doing the training, you like being hands-on, then that's what you have to do. That means you're going to jump on a virtual call every single day for probably an hour to 2 hours, and you're going to train them. That's what it takes. Okay. Like, that's what it takes. That's what I did with my Weaver Sales Academy team. We meet every single day as a team. As a new hire, they get me every single day for their first 90 days for an hour. And I'm doing nothing but training them, coaching them, role playing with them.
Yeah.
Like, that's how we do it. But I love training. Most people hate training, which is why I'm in the business I am in. All right.
Yeah,
to where
right.
I take the training off your plate to where then all you have to do is coach. So if you're in the personal line, if you're a personal lines insurance agent selling auto, fire, life insurance, let's connect, because I have a done for you training system that will train your team for you.
Yeah. So let me publish the results of this poll. Are you open to hiring remote employees? 63% are saying, heck yeah, I am. Most are, maybe I could be persuaded, another 31%, and only one person said not on your life. So, I think the train is headed that way. It is interesting to see that 90% of people on Indeed are looking for remote or hybrid work, and only 9% of job descriptions actually list that as a benefit. So there's a big gap here, and I think there's an opportunity there. Obviously, with this morphing workplace, there's a great opportunity.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, just highlight that, highlight it. If you're willing to do it, make sure it makes its way into your job descriptions. Make sure it makes its way into anything that you're doing on social media, is that remote hybrid is an option, and, see people come out of the woodwork.
This just isn't the insurance industry. I want to just say this again. I mean, we have a neighbor right now that is a CFO, and she does really well, but she's currently shopping for a new job that is 100% remote. My brother, all right, he is a corporate guy. He's searching right now for a job that's 100% remote. Like, everybody I personally know right now are looking for positions that are 100% remote or hybrid. All right. But very few days in office. Like, if you're looking to attract good top talent, and a lot of times remote people will even take less money because of the benefit about having flexibility and freedom and being able to work wherever they want.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about keeping sales teams. Retention, because obviously it takes time to train somebody. It takes time to recruit people. It takes time and money to recruit people. What about retaining? What does retention look like? What are some of your recommendations that you do? Because we talked about culture. There's obviously egos that are involved. There's coaching that is involved. There's an investing in their growth that you can do. But what are some of the things that you found to be helpful in the retention of top players?
Yeah. To me, I'm always going to go back to the basics of, at the end of the day, as the business owner, you are a leader of people. You're a leader of people. And so the first 90 days, I want to reiterate this. The first 90 days of someone's tenure with you is extremely important. You have to get them up and succeeding and winning quickly. Okay. You got to devote time to their development. You have to devote time to getting to know them as a person. So that's where I'm going to go with this conversation, is if you really want to build a strong culture, you have to figure out what's important to your people. What are their personal goals? Have them do a vision board that you're going to visit every 3 months, where you have 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year goals. And then what you want to do as the leader, for example, on those 1 year goals they have, is you want to help them work backwards with what they need to do in the workplace to accomplish those 1 year goals. And then every month on your one-on-one, you're going to be asking questions like, hey, where are you at on that personal goal? At the 3-month mark, you're diving in even heavier. Like, hey, where are you at on that? Do we need to work backwards? Like, are you on pace? Are you on time? Because this is going to show them that you care about their personal situation. And at the end of the day, people care. It's the WIIFM. What's in it for me? All right. We're selfish. Humans are selfish. What's in it for me? So as a producer, they want to know, how can they correlate and tie what they do professionally to accomplishing their dreams personally? And if you do that as a leader, and consistently and constantly do that, all right, that's where the ball gets dropped a little bit. Typically, is the first like month, you're like, yeah, great. And then all of a sudden, like 3 months, 6 months into it, and I understand shit happens. Like, I'm not here to say like I've been there. I've been the guy that's like done the vision board. Here's the plan, and then we don't talk about the plan until 12 months later, and it's like, oh, I dropped the ball. Like that's on me. So that's why, like, as a leader, when you talk about 10xing your business versus 2xing, you have to figure out ways to delegate as much as you can, like marketing, training, unless you just love this stuff, but delegating as much as you can and empowering other people that are experts in that field to do it for you so that you can do the one thing that I believe is the most important part of your business. And that's pouring in and leading your people, period.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so much of it comes back to, you want to attract top talent. You have to be top talent. Like you yourself you have to work on your professionalism. You have to work on your leadership skills. You have to work on your, all the things, all your defects as a leader, work on those, and you will find the results kind of trickling down to your employees. We got a couple minutes left here, Michael. We've got one other question that remains unanswered from Jared. He says, have you ever had an experience on taking a chance paying someone more than you typically would because of a gut feeling on their ability and what they seem like they can do sales wise, or increasing the culture or bar in an office? So basically, they don't have maybe the experience, but you think, man, I think they're going to be a great fit and they're going to be able to kind of grow into it. What are some of your thoughts there?
Yes, I have multiple times, and sometimes it worked out and sometimes it didn't. All right. Sure. So what I've actually learned to do throughout doing that, instead of starting them at that base, what I recommend doing is a 90-day probation period with every single person you hire. And if you're going to offer them the type of money that you're talking about, make it at that 90-day mark. Make them prove themselves for the first 90 days where you're making sure they're a good culture fit. They've got the right attitude. They're doing the work. They're developing their skills. And then if they do everything that they say they're going to do and they're capable of, bam, at 90 days, not only do you get this pay raise, you also get this bonus. All right. Because what I used to do. That makes a lot of sense. And again, this is all learning lessons. What I would do is, oh my gosh, you're such a great candidate. Yeah, let's do this. Boom. I'm like 90 days later, I'm like, that was one of the most expensive mistakes I've ever made as a business owner. Not only did I devote my time, I just paid them more money than I've paid anybody in my life.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like a probationary period, or let's trial this. Let's see how it goes. Whether it's 3 months, whether it's 6 months.
Here's the thing, and not to cut you off, Daniel, but it goes both ways. Not only are you giving them 90 days, hey, it's the same thing. Like, if you don't like this, if this opportunity is not for you, like, this is a 90-day probation period for you to where we're both figuring out if this is a good fit.
Yeah, that's right. Well, here we got a couple minutes left. Thank you for everybody for their participation, for the gift of your time this afternoon. I hope it was helpful for you. I'm going to be sending an email out. You're going to get a recording of this. You're going to be given the different links to some of the different resources. Go follow Michael Weaver on LinkedIn. He's very active there. He's got a lot going on. Go download the Insurance Buzz podcast. Michael, give us the 30-second elevator pitch on Weaver Sales Academy, where they can go, why somebody should think about kind of working and checking out Weaver Sales Academy.
Shouldn't think about it. You should just schedule a call with me. So I just put a link in the chat box. So what we do at Weaver Sales Academy, again, is we fill the gap between corporate training and what it actually takes to be successful in insurance sales. The average tenured producer that joins our program is experiencing a 40% increase in auto, fire, and life insurance production within the first 90 days of working with us. Okay. So we have set curriculums. We have the brand new hire training program. That's a major pain point for most agents, is getting that new hire up in training. I've already told you, like, within 10 days, we can get them selling in a multi-line value-based sales conversation. We have 90 days of built-out training for them that takes the guesswork out of it. Everything you can think from a producer standpoint, from new business conversation to appointment to onboarding customers to pivots to life insurance, overcoming objections, and everything in between. Not only did we develop a 24/7 on-demand sales school, which is the #1 sales training platform for insurance professionals in the country, we also back it up with live training every single Tuesday that are role play in style. So everything from life insurance conversations to new business P&C sales conversations to overcoming objections, pivots, marketing, mindset work, you name it. That's what we train on every single Tuesday, to where your team gets live coaching from me or one of the other coaches on Weaver Sales Academy. So I'd love to have a call with you, even if it's not about Weaver Sales Academy. Maybe you're putting together some training plans for what we talked about today. Feel free to book a call with me, and I'm happy to help you out any way I can. And if you want to look at Find Weaver Sales Academy, Daniel, I know you're going to drop in the weaversa.com on the email. But yeah, I would just encourage you to follow me on LinkedIn. I'm putting out a lot of free value on that. And then the podcast, The Insurance Buzz, is a really good value add too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for BMH Solutions, BMH is brand market hire. This is all about the attracting and hiring, building systems so you can have a hiring habit. We build personalized custom recruiting websites that help showcase your brand to talent, as well as a hiring system very similar to what Michael described in terms of helping to bring candidates through a process where you're weeding out all the unqualified candidates. So you're not spending your emotional energy with lousy candidates, and you can quickly weed out the duds and hire the cream of the crop. So you're going to be getting an email from me with more information about this. Michael, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. So grateful for everyone who was able to join. Looking forward to connecting with anybody. And feel free to click on that discovery call with Michael Weaver there. You'll also get that in an email follow-up after this. So thanks so much, everybody, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, Daniel.